Hi, this is June 27th, 2021, and we are here on behalf of the Silver Lake Historical Collective. I'm Liane Schirmer. We're here with videographer Coy Pam, with Cheryl Revkin and Michael Masterson, and our interviewees are, from camera right to left, Juan Talavera, Margarita Cordova, and Pietro Barone. And we're here to discuss the history of the nightclub El Cid. Okay, great. So as we begin, I'm just going to ask each of you to give us your name, where you're from, where you were raised, and when you came to Los Angeles. Juan, would you like to begin?
Sure. I was born in 1939, November 24th, usually Thanksgiving. I was born in Los Angeles. What were the other questions?
And where were you raised?
I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I wasn't born in Spain or anything like that. I was born and raised in East LA. You know, the real rough part of East LA,
Well.
believe me. Hasn't changed.
Okay, Margarita?
I was born in Saginaw, Michigan, and was raised in Mexico City, and came to Los Angeles when I was 14, and have been here ever since.
And Pietro?
Well, believe it or not, I was born in Cairo, Egypt. Although from Italian parents, obviously I'm an Italian citizen. I came to LA in 1969 as a 17, 18-year-old kid, and the idea was for me to visit my sister. I stayed a lifetime.
That's great. But the interesting thing is that before we start talking about the nightclub, how did you all meet? So the first question I'm going to give to Margarita. How did you meet Juan Talavera?
I was working in a club called the Purple Onion that was on Sunset Boulevard, and they had a flamenco show. And one night, the male dancer ran off stage, disappeared, and called the next day to say he was in New York. He'd gotten sick of LA and wasn't coming back. So the owner said, oh my gosh, we gotta get a male dancer. Margarita, get a male dancer. So I called Lola Montes, and she said, well, I'll tell you, I have one kid that I can let you borrow. Because she gave shows and, you know, wanted him in case she had a show. And I said, okay, what can he do? She said, he only knows 2 dances. I said, good enough, send him. That's how I met Juan. He was only 18.
And Juan, do you remember that day?
I'll never forget it. It was, it turned my life around. Okay? Because I was very unsure of my dancing or anything like that. And when Margarita called me, I said, well, what did Lola tell you about me? I don't dance with Lola, I dance with the group. And she says, yeah, well, she said your solo is magnificent. And I said, well, I'm pretty good, you know. But when Margarita called me, hello, who is this? And we chatted a little bit, and she said, all right, well, come over to my house, and we'll work something out for this weekend. I planned, this weekend? I mean, you know, we do like 2 months of rehearsals for a show. But yeah, that was it.
So as we, that's pretty interesting. Now we want to go back for a second and get your history in dance. So Margarita, can you tell us briefly when you first entered the world of dance, and tell us how it led you to El Cid? Kind of briefly.
Yeah.
In 2 sentences.
My mother decided that I was going to be a dancer because she saw a couple doing ballroom dancing in Mexico City. And she decided, oh, that would be nice for me. And so she enrolled me in a ballet school where the teacher didn't even have us take off our huaraches. And but I fell in love with the dancing at once. You know, she didn't have to push me or anything. And at that time, Ginger Rogers was big. And I saw a movie of Ginger Rogers dancing, and I figured, well, by the time I grow up, she'll be old, and maybe she'll want me to take her place. All I had to do was figure out how I could make my eyes blue and my hair blonde. And I was off.
And so after Mexico City, where did you train with dancing or?
I went to see, because we were not rich, and they played the same film over and over and over in our neighborhood. So I was able to go see her every Saturday, and I studied with her.
So
And it
Ginger,
was free.
Ginger was your mentor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after that, so did you dance professionally in Mexico City?
No, because we came over here when I was 14.
And how did the dance evolve at that point?
Well, then I got a real teacher, you know, then I was able to go to a real teacher, and one thing led to another, but anyway, I naturally, like so many Mexican kids, I learned the whole folklorico repertoire, Mexican. And that evolved. No, what happened, I saw Carmen Amaya. And that changed my life. I saw her and I thought, wow, I want to do that.
And
I
she
don't want a ballroom dance.
she was a flamenco dancer.
Carmen Amaya,
Oh.
yeah.
And so how
She's
did
the Pavlova of flamenco.
how did you start training in flamenco? Was it in the States or elsewhere?
No, it was in the States, yeah. There were lots of dance teachers, including Rita Hayworth's father was still teaching here.
Oh, so you were already in Los Angeles at that
Yeah.
time. Oh, interesting. And so did you ever go to Spain to study?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. They thought I was a gypsy because of my Spanish. You know, they knew I wasn't Spanish, but they couldn't figure out what kind of a Spanish I spoke. So they decided I was a gypsy mucking Spanish up. And so I had no trouble, you know, getting teachers and all, because naturally, you know, they wanted to take me into the fold. They felt sorry for me. I was a lost gypsy girl. And then I danced in the caves in Granada with them, yeah, because they couldn't figure out how I was making a living, and they wanted to help me.
So were you involved in professional companies in Spain then?
No, at that time, I'm not going to tell you my age. Yes, I am. I'm 91.
Oh my God, wow.
And at that time, I'm talking 50s, 40s, 1940s. But what they had were tablaos. That just means a show, you know, in a restaurant. And then, like the El Cid, that's where I took the idea from, you know. Have it be a little restaurant, but with a show.
So how many years did you spend in Spain dancing there?
Well, I came and went and came and went. I would stay 3, 4, 5 months, and then, you know, come back, and then go back and stay 2 months, whatever I could.
And who were some of the dancers that you worked with there?
Did I tell you my age?
Yes. So we're going to have to research that. That sounds really interesting. Well, maybe we can follow up on that. So what brought you back to Los Angeles to settle then?
Well, we were touring, and everyone gets tired of touring, and liked the weather, liked, the whole place here, and then they started to have flamenco places here, the same type of thing as in Spain, a restaurant, the Madrid. What are some of them?
La Casa Madrid.
The Matador, Don Pepe's, and I was dancing around, but you only get 6 weeks because customers want new faces and new things. And I thought, this isn't gonna work, I can't just work 6 weeks. Gotta get my own place. And that's how it evolved.
Now, what period of time was this? What years?
62.
62. So there was already a bit of a nightclub flamenco scene in Los Angeles?
Oh, yeah.
And who would go? Was it well attended? Was it a...
Sometimes, and sometimes not. Flamenco wasn't that popular.
Interesting.
The one that made it really popular was Jose Greco, because he toured with his company, and he put a lot of variety in his shows. He put the folk dancing and besides just flamenco, and people liked that. He came to the Greek Theater. Highland, what is it? The Bowl, Hollywood Bowl, and made it popular. Because before that, it just wasn't known at all, even.
That's interesting. Okay, so we're going to go over to Juan for a moment, and we're going to ask you the same question, Juan. How did you start dancing? And can you tell us your evolution as a dancer, where you trained and how you got to be a professional flamenco dancer from when you were a child? So take it away.
When I was born, I was a seventh trimester child. I only weighed 3.5 pounds. My grandmother used to carry me in a little box, so she wouldn't lose me because I was only this big, And the doctors told her that I would have to, if she wanted me to live, I would have to strengthen my heart as much as I could. Well, my mother didn't know anything about dancing or anything like that. But my uncle owned a store in East Los Angeles on Brooklyn Boulevard, and his daughters were taking dancing lessons. So they threw me in there. You're going to strengthen your heart. Boom. That was it. Luckily, the teacher, Corina Valdez, she was a well-known teacher in those days, and she did all the folklorico dances and all that kind of stuff. But she kept looking at me. She said, "You're not happy dancing this, are you?" And I said, "Well, the Mexican dances are always happy. They're never sad. They're never deep. You can't go past that happiness. They all, after a while, they all look alike. Well, flamenco does too."
That's being a Mexican.
Exactly. So I started taking classes, and Corina noticed that I had an ear for music, a good one, because now it's not that hot. I had an ear for music, I had rhythm, and I could make up little steps, just by trying it, and that's the way I started dancing.
So did you dance regularly, like with clubs and folklorico groups throughout high school?
While I was in high school, getting beat up for being a dancer, all the time. They used to chase me home and try to beat me up, but I ran faster than they did. Because when you're a dancer and you're a man and you're a kid, I feel sorry for them, because I went through hell.
Yeah, that must have been very difficult at the time. And how did you cope with that? I mean,
like I said, I just ran home and found different ways to get home before they could get me, because my house was right on the crossway where all the students used to go up and down the sidewalk. So, Corina got me interested. she took me to a studio called the Rainbow Studios up on Cahuenga, I think, something like that. And she says, there's a couple that just came from Spain who were touring with Carmen Amaya. And when she said Carmen Amaya, you know, I mean, I had seen her in person a couple of times, and she was unbelievable, just totally unbelievable. So I started studying with Antonio Triana and with his daughter Luisa Triana, and they're the ones that they put me in the company because they said, you can dance, we're gonna make you dance, you know, and that's the way it was.
Wow. And so where did you perform with that company?
We did concerts. Mr. Triana used to get a lot of bookings. You know, I can't say why, how, but there was a little trick to it.
Because he was famous.
Yeah, well, he was famous, but never mind.
But
Anyway,
now did you tour around Los Angeles, California, or nationally?
not nationally, Los Angeles, California, out of town, San Diego, that kind of stuff. You know, we would take the company there, we would do concerts.
And was there a point where you knew that flamenco would be your life?
Yes.
And tell us about
Yeah.
that moment,
Excuse me.
please.
I have a slight cold. Yeah, you know, I liked it, and it was fun, and Antonio and Luisa kept encouraging me to get to Spain. What you have to do is go to Spain and learn how to dance. You have facilities, you have the ears, you have the rhythm, you have all that. You have to get to Spain. So I went on my first trip to Spain. Actually, it was my honeymoon, you know, and my wife Evelyn and I, we went to Spain, and that was fun. You know, that was a lot of fun. She came back, and I stayed there, studying. You know, and I studied with Manolo Marin. I studied with. No. No. El Fajuco and his family are fantastic dancers, but to my point of view, they all dance the same way.
Yeah.
You can't tell one apart from the other. They're fantastic. They do some stuff that is unbelievable with the rhythm, because they're rhythmic machines, and they're very exciting to watch. I saw the mother dance once, and I could see where it all came from. The mother was unbelievable. You know, she's still around. I don't know how old she is, but she's still around. I don't think she's performing.
So, when you came back to LA, though, after this wonderful honeymoon, how did you find work as a flamenco dancer? Did you work just in the clubs, or did you also work in films?
No, I got a call from a lady named Margarita Cordova telling me that she needed a dancer right away because I think the guy's name was Victorio. Took off and went to New York, and that was it. And she said, well, Lola recommended you very highly. She said, you don't have much of a repertoire, but, you know,
But she said he's a born dancer.
the ability, you can do it. You know, yeah. She says, yeah, I was a strong dancer, and yeah, so that's what it is.
So I want to go back to Margarita for a second. As dancers, yes, you worked in the clubs, but did you work in films and TV? Was there a call for that?
Oh, yeah.
So tell us a little
Lots
bit,
of us.
we'll start with Margarita, about what films and TV shows you danced in, or any stories you have about working in film as a dancer.
Yeah. Let's see, the Red Skelton show. For some reason, he wanted to be a dancer, he told me. And anytime he could get a dancer on his show, on his series, you know, he'd do it. And then the Dinah Shore show, and Juan remembers better than I do. You're younger, that's why.
Not much.
So Juan, do you remember some of the shows that either you danced alone or with Margarita on the different shows or films?
Well, the film, okay. there was a
Twilight
movie.
Zone.
There was a movie being done. No, it was a TV show called Run for Your Life, and the star of the show decided he wanted to have some flamenco dancing in the show. Well, they had Fernando Lamas. He says, "Oh, yo puedo bailar. I know how to dance. I know how to dance all this and that." And he got up and he started doing some stuff, and everybody just didn't say a word. One of the cameramen remembered me from another show that I had done, and they said, "There's a guy here in LA that works at the Purple Onion." He says, "I can have him here in 5 minutes." And they did. They brought me in right away. And Fernando just looked at me like, "Why are you here?" And I said, "Well, I'm here to dance." So they shot me from the knee down doing the footwork that Fernando was supposed to be doing. Okay? But then they decided, you know what? Can you dance with a partner? And they said, yeah, I have a partner. I don't think you were there yet.
Yeah.
Were you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, yeah, my partner's over there. so we danced together. So that's what we did.
So did you work a lot in films then? Was that a good source of
Yeah.
income for both of you?
More than film, TV, Twilight Zone, even, Oh, the Marlon Brando movie, yeah.
What was the Marlon Brando movie?
One-Eyed Jacks, the one he directed. He came to the set. Yeah.
Really?
Well, then let's go on that note. Let's start with how the El Cid came to be. So Margarita, can you tell us, because there was a third partner in El Cid who is not with us today.
Yeah. My
Yes,
husband.
exactly. So tell us about that a little bit about you and your husband, and how the three of you managed to find and come up with the idea of El Cid.
Yeah, well, we were working, and it came to an end, and I suddenly told Juan and Clark, this isn't going to work. We got to have a place of our own where they don't, put us out at the end of 6 weeks. And Clark said, I don't have a head for business, my husband. And Juan said, I'm in, but I don't know. So anyway, I thought, well, we just have to find a place. That's what we've got to do. We've got to find a place and start dancing. But do you know that the rents, and I'm talking 1962, were $5,000 a month?
Oh my God.
I thought, wow, we'll never get that rent together every month. $5,000 a month, and I'm not talking about La Cienega. So I thought, well, that's out. We got to buy a place. How I thought we had money to buy a place is beyond me. So I told Clark, let's go out and start seeing what we can find on Melrose and on the streets that I thought, and we were walking and walking, and we happened to go by where the Cid finally ended up, on Sunset Boulevard. It used to be Cabaret Concert Theater, and that's where Goldie Hawn and all her troupe and all those people were found, discovered and put on television. They came from New York, and that's what the Cabaret Concert Theater was, a place for auditioning for New York artists in Los Angeles. And down, if you don't know, the El Cid goes down, it's in a, because it used to be a cattle trail. And
Really? Cattle trail?
yeah, and the building down there was built by D.W. Griffith for Birth of a Nation. So it's a very old building, and way down at the bottom, I said, it's got a little sign there. Maybe it's for rent. I said, and the way it looks, they can't rent for more than $1 a month. Juan. The weeds were higher than the building, etc. Totally derelict. So Clark ran down and he said, "It's for sale." I said, "What's for sale?" He says, "I don't know, but it's got a phone number." We called. The owner, he rented it out, but he was 94. And he said, "I don't have long, and I want to get rid of my things and leave everything in order for my family, and I'm selling it." And he sold it for $20,000. With no interest. And we were to pay him. No bank, no anything.
That's great.
Just, it was meant to be. And then Juan and I and Clark started in on the hard work, you know, of we had to get rid of the weeds and plant flowers, something, grass. My husband was an artist, so you know, he started painting murals all over the place, you know, anywhere where there was a big spot that, you know, we didn't know what to do with. He said, I'll paint a mural, I'll paint a mural, and he did. And that's what made it unique, you know. There were murals on the ceiling, wherever, you know, in the bathroom.
So how did you come up with the name El Cid?
Oh, very simply. Did you know that they charge you for putting the lights, you know, putting the name of your club or whatever in lights? They charge you by the letter. Now, we had picked out La Taberna de Sevilla. And when we learned it was by the letter, we thought, bull, no Taberna de Sevilla. And at that time, it was that year that El Cid, with Charlton Heston and Sophia Loren, hit. And Clark said, "I got it, El Cid." 5 letters. And he said, "And I have a wonderful idea for the Logan." You know, he made that Logan and put El Cid in it. And in the beginning, everyone spelled it S-I-D.
No?
And Clark said, "Oh my God, now they think we're a Jewish restaurant." Oh. And the day we opened, by the way, we worked like dogs and we got it all together. And the day we opened, I didn't know about marketing or letting people know. We opened, no one, no one came in. And we were there trying to figure out why no one had come in. And we were down in that hole, you know, we weren't even where they could see us.
That's great. So when Margarita comes to you with this idea of buying a nightclub, what was your response? What went through your head at the time?
How do you make a buck to give them? You know, I didn't know anything about anything.
He said, "But I'm
I'll wash the dishes and clean the dressing rooms and sweep the stairs. I'll do that. You know, and that's it. Each one of us was doing something. We were just sitting.
We were
around.
multitasking.
Now, did you also have outside jobs besides this one?
We were,
I'm sorry?
Did you have outside jobs besides running El Cid?
Oh, I was going to school. You know,
that's not a
I was
job.
still in school.
And what were you studying?
I'm sorry?
What were you studying?
School.
High school.
High school?
Yeah. I was at the end of high school. Yeah. So,
We were, Clark and I were living on unemployment. Literally. But at the end of that very first night, one person did come in. And he was looking around, and this was about 2 in the morning, and we're all sitting there wondering why nobody had come in. And he said, "Is this new, whatever?" And we said, "Yeah, but no one came in." He said, "Does anyone know you're here?" "Well, I think so. They should. Why?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, if you didn't put an ad out or in the paper somewhere," he says, "nobody's going to show up. You've got to get a little publicity here."
So then what happened? What did you guys do? Did you start marketing El
Yeah.
Cid?
Yeah.
And did you get ads or what?
Yeah, I got I found, what do you call them? the guys that do the publicity for you.
Publicist.
Publicist, thank you. $25 a month. So we got $25 worth of publicity a month. But what happened is my husband Clark had been touring and on Broadway with Betty Davis. And so he said, oh my God, are you still friendly with her? And Clark said, oh yeah. He said, call her, get her to come down here.
So did she come?
Yeah, she came with a whole group and let everybody know that, you know, where she was going. And she filled the club practically. And then, of course, I had already done the movie with Marlon Brando. So they said, did you end on friendly terms? Yeah, call him. I did, and he came.
So this brings me to my next question. Can you talk about all the celebrities that were there over the years? Juan, you want to give us a little bit about that? Do you remember any celebrities that came while you were there?
Oh my God. The question should be, what celebrities didn't come? You know, everybody in the Hollywood land ended up at our city.
Ava
They loved the place.
Gardner, Kim Novak, Lana Turner,
Peter Falk.
Peter Falk, Anthony Quinn. And I think they like to come because, you know, I forbid everyone to take pictures of them or ask for autographs.
Yeah.
And, Elizabeth Taylor's good friend, the one that died of AIDS.
Rock Hudson.
Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson used to come all the time. I had him sit in the balcony and didn't send anybody else up there. So they, they soon learned. Even Rita Hayworth came in. Kim Novak, yeah.
So Pietro, you want to tell us a little bit about your story? How did you get involved with this amazing
I
venture?
have no idea, but it was a wonderful experience. Best experience of my life.
How
Really.
old were you again when you started there?
I was 17 years old and I was looking for a job. I had just come from Italy and I decided to stay in LA. And my sister worked at the LCID alongside a bunch of other ladies that worked there. So it was a very nice environment for a young boy to go work. So my sister convinced Marga to hire me, but neglected to tell her that I did not speak any English.
And he was going to be a waiter.
So I was going to be the waiter, and so I show up there, and the first day I would get the orders, and I would go back to the bartender, Margarita, and kind of mimic whatever they told me.
He speaks several languages.
At that time, I did not speak English, so I would mimic, and then sometimes I would get it wrong or I would forget. So Marga would coach me on what to do and what to say, and that went on for a few months until I got the hang of it. But one thing that really was nice about working there is I fell in love with flamenco. To this day, I know all about flamenco.
He
I
plays
watch
the
it
guitar.
every day.
He's a good guitarist.
I did not play guitar at the time, but I started playing guitar. I learned guitar. I bought a very nice guitar from one of the guitarists, Benito Palacios, sold me one of his guitars. And I started playing, and then I asked Juan if I could play for his dancing lessons in Whittier at the time. So I used to drive from Hollywood, North Hollywood at the time, all the way to Whittier to play for Juan Talavera's dancing classes. And this is how I learned the rhythms and how I learned to play. And I taught myself to play to the point where after the LCID ended, I did a few gigs in town, but that was the end of that. I left it after that. I went to work for UPS and retired from there after 40 years.
And do you remember any celebrities that you were impressed with that came by?
I mentioned Peter Falk. I mean, it's one of them. I can't. It was a chaotic atmosphere there, if you can only imagine. We had people waiting outside the door on Sunset Boulevard, a line of people waiting to get in because we had 3 shows a night, I think it was. We had people outside the door waiting to get in, so the other ones could leave and they would go in. So it was very, very busy. And it was like that for a while.
But, you know, because the building was old,
Fire
and the
department.
roof leaked when it rained, and we didn't have money to fix the roof. So my husband ran to Chinatown and bought a whole bunch of cheap paper umbrellas and stood at the door giving them to people that were going to sit at tables where it was leaking, and told them, it might start raining, because you know it is raining. If you feel a drop of water on your head, take your umbrella and hold it. And people loved it. Everybody wanted an umbrella, even if they weren't getting rained on. And because we were down in the hole, when it rained a lot, the whole place flooded. And we didn't have the money to get that fixed. So Clark bought a whole bunch of brooms and handed people a broom, and they actually just, everybody wanted a broom. They wanted a sweep. Am I telling the truth, one?
That's great.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So can you tell us what happened to your competition? All those flamenco clubs around town were,
They were closing one by one.
so basically you were siphoning those customers, right?
Yeah.
That's right. So what
Which
else?
did not make us like Cheryl.
So what do you think it was unique about El Cid in terms of the shows, in terms of the dancing, that brought
Do you think it's Clark?
people?
It was Clark's talk?
I'm sorry?
Do you think it was Clark's talking? Yeah. Clark, what my husband did was, I think he was a frustrated MC. He used to explain what the dance was about and give them the high points and tell them, you know, when they come together, it's because, you know, she is dying, you know, she has an illness like opera, etc. So people then were busy watching. You know, they were looking for the little signs, and then they would know what was going on in the dance and in the singing. And they all claimed that it made it much more interesting, because flamenco to them was totally, you know, unknown, and they didn't understand it, and they didn't understand the singing because they didn't speak Spanish. And so that Clark made it very palatable for them, and they really enjoyed his talking. And that was the only thing. Now the flamencos were all having a fit, because they said, oh my God, you know, on top of that he's an American playing the guitar, and now he's talking and explaining, and to prove to them, you know, that that was the key to our success, Clark decided he wasn't going to talk or say anything. And sure enough, in the middle of a dance, people would lose interest and start talking. You would hear the chattering and the clattering and the laughing, and hear the, you know, people are dancing and singing, and no one's paying attention. So then they all became convinced. They said, no, I want Clark to explain when I dance. I want Clark to explain when I sing. And I'm sure that, you know, that was the key to our success. It's the only thing that we did differently. And come to think of it, when I was in a soap opera, and there was an actress there, and she kept staring at me, and she kept staring at me, and finally, one day she came over, she says, I know who you are. You're Margarita from the El Cid. You're a flamenco dancer. She was an actress from New York and had moved out here. She says, I used to come out here when they brought me out to be in a movie or whatever, but I always used to go to the Cid. And I used to tell my friends, go to the Cid because there's a guy there that explains it and you'll love it. So obviously, you know, I'm sure that was what made us. The El Cid is still on its feet, you know, what, 58 years later? And there isn't a flamenco club left in town.
Well, and then about the dancing itself, did you mostly get dancers from LA, or did you import dancers?
Both. Both.
You want to talk about that a little bit? Who the dancers were and where they came from?
I'll let Juan talk about that. I'm just going to insert one little thing here. In LA particularly, a lot of your flamenco dancers are Mexican. And, you know, flamenco has been a way for us to get out of say it, Whittier, East LA. You know, and bring us out, you know. And wouldn't you say so, Juan?
I'm sorry?
Wouldn't you say so? What I just said?
That
What you
flamenco
said?
was a way for people to get
Mexicans,
out of the neighborhoods and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, to, you know, put us around higher. Because, you know, all this racism and all this stuff, what isn't of now.
And so, were most of the dancers then from the LA area, or did they come from Mexico, from Spain?
Yeah.
And who were those dancers? Any names that maybe flamenco fans might know?
Oh, yeah. Do you remember?
When I remember.
Inez de
clearly-
Juan?
Huh?
Inez de Juan?
I didn't like her.
Oh, okay.
You can mention anyone that comes to mind that maybe a dance fan would know.
There was a dancer I saw with the Jose Greco company, who was Carmen Mora, a statuesque woman, real tall, and she ended up working with SLHC, you know. And the only problem is they couldn't find a dancer as tall as she was, except me. So I got the job like that. But it was a great pleasure to dance with her, because I learned a lot. And she taught, she would teach at Perry Studios. We'd all go over there if we wanted to take a class, and you know, that kind of thing.
Now, she's very famous in the flamenco world.
Yeah.
And so would you say that El Cid, what kind of influence did it have on young people, dancers, other young people? Would you say that people came there and got inspired to take dance, or?
Oh, yeah. There was a gal, Susana Salguero, and she said she had never seen flamenco, didn't know anything about it. And her mother took her to the Cid when she was 14, and she fell in love. That was what she wanted to do, you know. And so when it was time for her to go to college, and you know, her parents thought she was on her way to college, she had applied, been accepted, etc. She took the money and went to Spain. And to study flamenco, and stayed there 4 or 5 years, and then came back and came to the Cid, and I hired her. She told me her story, and I thought, well, I have to hire her.
Well, really quickly, were there any films or TV shows that were filmed at El Cid when you owned it?
Oh, yes. But they made a mess of the place, huh? They just made a mess of the place. We did it, what, 2, 3 times, and then said, that's it, you know, we can't.
Do you remember the shows?
They
I
were-
don't.
do you?
Huh?
Do you?
No.
Well,
One was with, and I can't remember what his show was, and he's still going strong. The one that was in, oh my gosh, his name is on the tip of my tongue, you'd know him at once. He's done nothing but one show after another, but the famous one, the futuristic one,
Star Trek?
hmm?
Star Trek?
Star Trek?
Star Trek? We'll have to
Star
come-
Trek. Star
Yeah.
Trek. What's his name?
William Shatner?
There.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So they.
Well, he had a show at that time on television.
Oh.
He's always worked. He's never been out of
Yeah.
work. This was before Star Trek.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
stop. I just wondered if we could have a couple minutes about Silver Lake, you know, like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We've only got about 5 minutes left.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So,
Sure.
I'm sorry.
No, I just, you kind of saw Silver Lake evolve over the years, I guess. Did you live in Silver Lake, or you
Oh,
just?
yes.
Yeah, uh-huh. And how
He
did,
lived in Silver Lake from 1961 to 1971.
and did you feel like you added a lot to the culture of Silver Lake by having El Cid there? And And
Well,
you
yeah.
brought a lot of famous people there. It kind of elevated Silver Lake
Yeah.
a bit. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. We just loved it. We
Uh-huh.
loved it.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
How did it change over the years for when you landed there as El Cid?
mm.
How did was it an arts community? How did it change?
Yeah, it was mostly artists in Silver Lake in '61, you know. And then for a period, the artists moved out. But then now they've come back in and they're trying to do this, you know, make it an artistic place again.
Were the rents more affordable in '61? Is that why what brought the artists in? What do you think that was?
Not really, but it was cheaper than Hollywood. I think it was the reservoir, you know, that was so lovely there. Everybody wanted to live around the reservoir, so pretend it was a lake.
I'm just curious, did you know about Casita del Campo, the
Oh,
restaurant
yes,
in
yes.
Silver Lake? Because they mentioned when we interviewed them that Rock Hudson would come there,
Mhm.
and there was kind of a gay bar downstairs where celebrities could be discreet. And I wondered if between El Cid and Casita that you were kind of
Well, I'll tell you, they were the ones that helped me get licenses. You know, I had no idea. We were going to open, and I didn't have one license for anything. I didn't know that you had to have licenses to run a business. And so they had come over and said, now, Margarita, you have everything in place, etc. And what about the licenses? The licenses?
yeah.
Liquor licenses.
How did the community support you? Did you get a lot of patrons from Silver Lake itself?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They wanted to see it flourish, and they were very proud that we lived there.
Great.
So then how did you decide that it, you know, did it devolve in a certain way? It became too difficult to run or too expensive? How did that happen? Tell us about when it started to become,
Well, that's
little more
not what did it.
what happened then?
Unfortunately, we were, what would you say?
Rob.
Hmm?
Rob.
What?
Rob.
Yeah, we had two bad actors there one night that pulled guns on us and robbed us and shot my husband.
Oh,
Yeah,
my God.
and that was the beginning of the end. I must admit, I just, I froze, you know. They were gonna kill us all. Only thing was that my husband jumped in front of the guy, and that scared him, and he rushed out of the place. And they found him, they got him, because his partner, there were two of them. The partner, obviously they had a falling out, and the partner gave him away, you know. He called and said, you know, I know who robbed the Cid and shot, you know, the owner. And so they put him in jail. They got him, and he went to jail for 5 years. And then the policeman came down and told me, he's gonna be out in a month, Margarita. And we've kept close tabs on him, because I used to hire the pretty girls. All the waitresses were very pretty girls. So the policeman used to just love to come and check us out almost every night. And, no, is that one married? Does she have a boyfriend? Does that one?
Amazing.
And so they, you know, they had an interest in the Cid. And they came and told me, he's out. And he's, the word is that he's out to get you. Because I was the one that identified him. You know, they had a lineup,
Yeah.
and I identified him. He says he's done nothing but obsess about, you know, the smart Alec woman that, you know, pointed him out in the lineup. And he says, he's saying that he's gonna go down there and he's gonna get you. He didn't care if they put him back in jail. And I said, oh my gosh, what should I do? he said, well, get a dog, or get out. Get out, you know, because these guys, you never know. And that scared the heck out of me, needless to say.
And what year was that? Do you remember?
Yeah, 78.
Well, the neighborhood had become a little rougher too.
Yeah.
Around
at
that time. Yeah.
Before it gentrified again.
So then you sold it, and do you remember who you sold it to?
No.
Have you been back since?
Oh, yeah. I used to go back and say, I knock on the door. I'm so-and-so, I used to live here. Oh, well, come in and see what changes we've made, etc. Supposedly, it was the house of Billy Graham. Yeah, but I don't know that for sure. I never bothered.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you, all three of you. That was a wonderful story, wonderful beginning for people to start investigating more.
It was great. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're most
That was
welcome.
amazing.
Nice to get you three together, too.
Yes, this is historic in itself.
I haven't seen Juan
I
in,
haven't seen her in ages.
yeah,
Isn't
we
that
talked
great?
on the
She
phone.
told me
Pietro,
that.
parli italiano?
I'm so glad.
Ma dai, dobbiamo parlare. Mille grazie per aver fatto
mai tu
questo.
parli italiano?
Perché la mia matrigna è italiana, ho
She's
passato